Uncle. Sabo still seemed to be unconscious, or perhaps he thought it was Uchiha Madara who saved him. But in his dazed state, he insisted on standing up without thanking him, but instead said, "The culprits of this fire are the royal family and the nobles." It's true. His voice seemed as if he was sick, or perhaps afraid that Uchiha Madara wouldn't believe him. Uchiha Madara narrowed his eyes. If he remembered correctly, when Sabo first heard this news, he didn't believe it because the streets were almost the same as usual. However, when he casually asked people, they answered without any concern. This made him particularly uncomfortable, and naturally, he desperately wanted to go back and report the news. Unfortunately, he was stopped several times, and in the end, when facing the city gate, he tried to open the closed gate. As a result, he was beaten unconscious by the soldiers. This city emits a smell worse than a garbage dump. There's a smell of human decay. His voice carried a hint of crying. I can't be free here. I feel ashamed to be born as a noble. Uchiha Madara's eyes narrowed, and the dragon behind him couldn't help but show a hint of difference. Has the decay of the nobles reached the point where even a child like this would say such things? I understand. I was also born in this country, the dragon said softly. Unfortunately, we haven't changed the power of this country yet. It's true. The power of the nobles is still strong. The celestial dragons are even crazier than this group of nobles, but they still live well, and you could even say they live more freely than anyone else. But the revolutionary army now. Sabo, upon hearing this, suddenly looked up with a hopeful look at the two of them. After looking at them for a while, he finally breathed a sigh of relief and fainted again. In fact, he was already in a semi-conscious state. Perhaps seeing the attitude of the two, he felt that they understood his words and felt relieved. He didn't need them to understand him, he just needed them to be able to understand his words. As long as they didn't look at him with a strange look like those nobles did when he spoke, as if they were looking at a fool, that would be enough. Not enough power? Uchiha Madara suddenly murmured, "No, I think I'm enough on my own." The dragon squinted his eyes. "Dragon, are you trying to stop me?" "It's not exactly stopping, I just want to know what you want to do." "It's a simple matter," Uchiha Madara calmly replied, then turned his head slightly to look at the dragon. "I intend to become the savior of this world." Calm words, a natural tone. As if he really intended to do so. "What do you plan to do?" The dragon squinted his eyes. "Although I'm also angry at the actions of the nobles here, including the servants and soldiers. But the power of the revolution should not be wasted on this kind of place." The dragon was very rational, extremely rational. No matter how much his expression changed, no matter how shocked he would not allow himself to delay the flourishing revolutionary cause. It is not difficult to save this group of people now, nor is it difficult to eliminate that group of aristocrats. But what comes next? What should the people do? Can the revolutionary army stay stationed here for a long time? Impossible. The enemy's attacks will continue to bleed the revolutionary army until it collapses. I plan to kill everyone here, including those who know about the fire but don't care and just want to watch the show, Uchiha Madara calmly said without caring about how many people would die. Although the aristocrats are a minority, there are many soldiers, officials, and servants who serve them here. However, Uchiha Madara smiled and said, "Thanks to the Goa Kingdom for completely dividing the people into different classes, it is almost impossible for the aristocrats to exist in other areas, which saves me a lot of trouble." Long is not worried that Uchiha Madara will not be able to distinguish who knows about the fire. Although they haven't fought each other, they have been together for a long time and naturally know that both Uchiha Madara and Zhao Shu have the ability to interrogate minds. A.B. And then, Long squinted his eyes. The stability of the country can be managed by the personnel trained by the Revolutionary Army, but what about the enemy's attacks? If my intelligence network is correct, the celestial dragons will arrive in 3 days at most. This is also one of the reasons he has to avoid them. The celestial dragons cannot be provoked, as it would anger the Marines. "I will take care of it," Uchiha Madara said calmly. "How will you solve it?" Long frowned. "By killing them, the problem will be solved." Uchiha Madara's voice remained calm. "That sounds too simple. It is a simple matter. As long as I am strong enough, this matter can be easily resolved." After an unknown amount of time, Long suddenly appeared on the Revolutionary Army's ship. Where is Uchiha's group? Emporio Ivankov, the king of the Okama, looked at Long, who was alone. Long didn't answer, he just raised his head and glanced at the burning flames on the shore. This country is a microcosm of the future world. His face was firm under the cloak. A world that eliminates unnecessary people will not have happiness. Someday, I will change this world. After saying that, he seemed to remember Sabo's words and fell silent for a while before continuing. Even in a country like this, children will be born. Then, in the eyes of everyone's confusion, he walked to the bow of the ship. He raised one arm, clenched his fist, showing great strength. Below him were a group of useless people who had just been rescued by the Revolutionary Army. They stared blankly at Long's figure, then looked at his determined face and shouted in hoarse voices. Those who are willing to fight for freedom, come aboard this ship. The people below hesitated for a moment and exchanged glances. Then they cheered. Emporio Ivankov narrowed his eyes. This is the kind of dragon that is worth following for them, a group of strong people. However, he frowned and suddenly asked, "Where is Uchiha Madara?" Long fell silent for a moment before answering. That man intends to stay here alone and carry the banner of revolution. One person. Here, holding up the banner of revolution. A simple sentence, but Dragon divided it into three. The faces of the high-ranking revolutionaries around him changed. Uchiha Madara, is he crazy? Ivankov, the king of the Okama, couldn't help but speak up. This can't be a joke. Leaving aside whether he can defend against the world government's attacks, even governing a country is not something that one person can handle. Even Emporio Ivankov couldn't help shaking his head. Uchiha Ban is too reckless. This is definitely not something that can be solved by one person. Revolutionaries operating in the East Blue, have they confirmed their base? It will definitely attract the world government's frenzied attacks. In the Grand Line, they can rely on the weather and terrain to delay, but what can they do here? There's nothing. The vast East Blue is enough for the world government to easily mobilize manpower and resources to besiege a small country. There's no chance of winning. Even if they can win one battle, can they win the next? Garp, Sengoku. Do you really think they won't take action? The five elders, Cypher Pole, the commanders of the three forces. They are not idle. Dragon remained silent upon hearing this. He also knew about this matter. Facing that resolute face, he couldn't find many words of persuasion. Dragon, what should we do? Ivankov, the king of the Okama, glanced at the orderly refugees below, and then at Kaido. Dragon remained silent for a moment before speaking. Proceed as usual. What about Uchiha Madara? Dispatch a small number of capable officials to help him stabilize the country. As for the rest. Dragon fell silent for a moment, then shook his head. I have no other way. In other words, he wants to give up on Uchiha Madara? Upon hearing this, everyone wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. The Revolutionary Army's power is still weak. Although they have many experts, they are only compared to some other forces. Compared to the world government, even the most impressive achievements are just scratching the surface. Are they really abandoning their comrades like this? Dragon couldn't help but clench his fist, his not-so-sharp nails deeply embedded in his palm, breaking the skin and drawing blood under immense strength. He didn't want to give up on his comrades, but what else could he do? Without power, there is no power. No matter how much is said, this fact is right in front of them. Silence lingered for too long on the ship, as if the sound had been muted. After an unknown amount of time, Dragon spoke again, his voice even hoarser than before. The Celestial Dragon's ships will arrive the day after tomorrow, so let's send out some personnel first to help Uchiha Madara stabilize the situation. After all, although his strength is good, he is not very skilled in managing political affairs. Eliminating too many aristocrats responsible for management can easily lead to problems in city governance. He needs our help. Let's gather another group of people from the headquarters, preferably those who are good at escaping, otherwise there may be problems. Nico Robin is also nearby, and she is familiar with the team. Let's bring her over as well. Zhao Shu is also here, right? With a series of arrangements, the members of the Revolutionary Army nodded one after another. and then began to execute the plan in an orderly manner. Dragon sighed lightly and looked at the city from a distance, as if he could see the figure of someone who had already started to take action. Uchiha Madara. In the past, he was someone who couldn't understand the revolution as well as his younger brother Zhao Shu, but now. If you can survive, I will find the best wine and have a drink with you. On the other side, Zhao Shu, disguised as Uchiha Madara, also began to take action. His movements were extremely fast and his actions were extremely covert. As soon as he arrived at a noble villa, he went in directly and used genjutsu to interrogate the noble, probing their feelings about the fire that had occurred. Based on the conclusion, he decided whether to spare their lives or strike them down with a single blow. The same went for the other soldiers, guards, and servants. Even children had to undergo his test. However, in reality, there were hardly any people who felt uncomfortable with the essence of the fire, like Sabo did. At most, there were a few children who might ask questions like, why aren't people who cause fires considered human? But under the guidance of the nobles, it turned into the result of, it's their mistake for not being born as nobles, how stupid. Why didn't they just be born into noble families? In reality, there were only a few people worth sparing, and they could be counted on one hand. Even the servants and soldiers, who were ordinary citizens, didn't have much sympathy for the people on the garbage mountain. Was it because they had been with the nobles for too long, or was it for some other reason? Zhao Shu didn't know, but no matter what the reason was, the result was the same. His actions were swift, and the nobles were not like the ninja in the Hokage world, who had specialized defenses against enemy ninja invasions. They were not very vigilant and their alertness was not high. In one night, he killed his way from the royal palace to the nobles' courtyard, then to the servants' residences and the military camp. By the time the members of the Revolutionary Army found him the next morning, he was already covered in blood. You've come. Uchiha Madara's tone was as calm as ever. I'll leave tomorrow's matters to you. Killing so many nobles, I hope there won't be any problems on the side of the commoners. Handle the pacification work, maintain order. I hope you can calm the people's emotions. If anyone wants to leave, it's best to let them follow Dragon's ship. His words sounded like orders. Uchiha Madara hadn't been with the Revolutionary Army for long and hadn't held any official position yet. But it made the surrounding members of the Revolutionary Army instinctively straighten their bodies and respond one after another. Yes. Uchiha Madara nodded and walked into the underground of the royal palace. The celestial dragons will arrive in about 2 days, and the world government will immediately notice something unusual here. An attack will come soon. Although the Goa Kingdom is not a large country with a vast land area, it still has a large city and several villages and towns, covering a large area. To completely defend it, Zhao Shu crossed his hands and formed a seal. 10,000 clones, is that enough? The political personnel of the Revolutionary Army are all reliable. They quickly brought out a group of nobles, making them admit the truth of the fire to the other commoners, which indeed caused a great uproar. The fire burned the garbage mountain, but the people on the garbage mountain were essentially citizens who couldn't make a living. Perhaps the nobles considered them not even human, but for those who could easily end up in the garbage mountain, there was inevitably some sorrow. In addition, the Revolutionary Army presented a large amount of evidence of nobles oppressing the commoners, which easily stabilized the thoughts of the citizens. Of course, don't expect stability for too long. Public opinion is not so easily controlled. Although the Revolutionary Army is capable, unless it is an area like the Grand Line that is easy to blockade, there will definitely be trouble when the world government attacks. Not to mention, just the blockade of the arrival of a large army can easily cause problems. This is East Blue, not the naturally difficult navigation of the Grand Line. Of course, there are also benefits. Nowadays, the world is basically under a kingdom system. Although there is commerce and it is starting to prosper, it is not as important as in Zhao Shu's previous life. Most people rely on farming for a living. As long as the land belonging to the nobles is distributed and the first year is endured, allowing the people to gain benefits and freedom, they will quickly gain support. The premise is to endure the first year. I really don't know what you're thinking. Robin snorted lightly and casually took the documents next to her. Uchiha Madara stood quietly on the side, looking outside. Robin glanced at him, snorted again, and returned to her work. She was suddenly called over. While the Revolutionary Army was rescuing the fire, she and Zhao Shu, clone, were buying food on another island, and then they were suddenly called over. When she learned about Uchiha Madara's actions from the Den Mushi, she was shocked and almost threw the receiver. What a joke, don't you know the big picture? Even Dragon, why did you call me over? I am familiar with him, but I don't want to stay in a place like this. Robin's lips moved, but in the end, it only turned into a sigh. She wanted to preserve her life and see the true history. But in the end, she still came to the island. As for why? Does your younger brother really know the location of a piece of true history? Robin couldn't help but ask. She was deceived by Zhao Shu, clone, with the location of the true history. No, Uchiha Madara calmly said. What? Robin suddenly looked up. Could it be that the man was deceiving her? Not just one. We know a total of 8 pieces, Uchiha Madara calmly said, then glanced at her. When I have free hands, I can take you to find them. 8 pieces? Robin widened her eyes. Yes, I'm not afraid to tell you. 2 of them are in the hands of Charlotte Linlin, Uchiha Madara calmly said. This kind of true history is something you absolutely cannot see. From the original work to Zhao Shu's crossing, a total of 9 pieces of true history information have appeared. Robin found 1 piece of true history in her childhood, but she didn't know its location. Charlotte Linlin has 2 pieces of true history, and in fact, what the Straw Hat Pirates will eventually obtain from her are 3 imprints, but that's because 1 piece was brought by Jinbei, a fishman. The location of that piece has not been clearly stated, and Zhao Shu doesn't know. Now that he has intervened in the pirate plot a bit too much, it's possible that 1 piece will ultimately remain undiscovered. So now Charlotte Linlin possesses 2 pieces of historical text, while Zhao Shu knows about 7 pieces of historical text, not 9. Charlotte Linlin. Robin bit her lip, she was starting to believe it. The 4 emperors naturally have the qualifications to gather some historical texts, and the road sign historical text left by Roger is related to the final island, Laughtail, so it naturally attracts the attention of the 4 emperors. However, this kind of historical text is definitely something that Robin herself cannot see. Besides, the other historical texts are not as difficult to find as those 2, but there are still some that are quite troublesome. Uchiha Madara calmly said, after this is over, Zhao Shu will take you to see 1 piece of historical text. Okay. Robin took a deep breath, suppressing her excitement. She had been wandering for 10 years, chasing after historical texts for a full 10 years. But besides the one she found in the underground basement of Ohara, she had never come across the location of any other historical texts. However, now someone suddenly said that there are 7 locations of historical texts. Taking a deep breath, she calmed down her excited emotions. As if trying to find something to say, Robin processed the documents while saying, speaking of which, Zhao Shu didn't come. Uchiha Madara remained expressionless. Don't you feel anything? Robin glanced at him with a hint of difference. You are in danger, but your little brother doesn't even bother to come. I don't feel anything. It's better that he doesn't come. Uchiha Madara calmly said, that way, I can give it my all. Why would Zhao Shu come jokingly? I even have to create a clone to pretend to be Zhao Shu. I'm so bored. Of course, it's enough to use the excuse of not wanting to distract Uchiha Madara from taking care of his little brother to the outside world. By the way, the current Uchiha Madara is also a clone. The original body is still busy creating clones in the underground of the palace. Mr. Ban, a ship has arrived at the port. A revolutionary official came to report, it should be the Celestial Dragons. Celestial Dragons? Robin frowned, they finally arrived. Yes, I know. Uchiha Madara calmly responded and walked out quickly. On the port, there was a huge ship. What's going on? A man wearing a bubble hat and white clothes had an unpleasant expression. Where are the people from Goa Kingdom? Are they all extinct? The Holy One came in person, and there isn't even one person to welcome him. Celestial Dragons, Saint Germa. Originally, the nobles of the Goa Kingdom planned to gather all the nobles of the country to the port to welcome them. But unfortunately, now there is no one to take care of those matters. On the way here, a lower-class commoner crossed in front of the Holy One's ship, and now there is no one to welcome the Holy One. Such a dirty and inferior country. Saint Germa's face darkened, and he made up his mind to severely criticize the nobles in the royal family of the Goa Kingdom. He might even strip a few nobles of their titles. Suddenly, he saw a figure appearing on the pier. He calmly reached out his hand, and his eyes emitted a sinister purple light. Shinra Tensei. As early as when Uchiha Madara's template reached a realism level of 74%, the Rinnegan had already appeared. Although the various secret techniques of the 6 paths have not yet been brought forth, the Rinnegan itself is not lacking in abilities. Shinra Tensei. Uchiha Madara raised his arm calmly, and an invisible repulsive force suddenly appeared. Swish. A ripple appeared on the surface of the sea. Boom. The enormous ship shattered as if it had collided head-on with a hammer. It's over, Uchiha Madara said calmly. At this level, they weren't even worthy of being his enemies. Just ants. Then, he retracted his arm and returned to the palace. Killing celestial dragons? I'm already used to it. As for the other guards, this isn't Mariajoy, so even if they are celestial dragons, what kind of high-level guards can they have? Rear admirals? Ensigns? Vice admirals are already considered high-ranking in the Marines. Although they are still under the command of celestial dragons, they haven't fallen to the point of being specifically assigned to escort these guys. One move is enough. Didn't you capture any celestial dragon prisoners? Robin looked at Uchiha Madara as he walked in and sighed. Next to Robin, there were already piles of documents, indicating that this young lady was working hard. She came from an archaeological background, so although she wasn't a professional official, she had experienced a lot and had good emotional and intellectual intelligence. Not to mention that her identity as an archaeologist proved her knowledge. When it came to handling government affairs, Robin alone could surpass a team from the world government. Celestial dragon prisoners? Why should I capture them? Uchiha Madara calmly asked in response. At least they can be used as bargaining chips in the future. Robin sighed softly. She was currently the person who least wanted Uchiha Madara and Zhao Shu to have any problems. If they had problems, what would happen to the main text of history? This was also the reason why she was doing her best to handle government affairs. She couldn't let such trivial matters interfere with the upcoming battle. There's no need for that, Uchiha Madara said calmly. There won't be any problems. You just need to take care of things here and make sure nothing happens to the people here. As for the enemies, I will take care of them all. Due to the interruption of the noble forces, the news from the world government was delayed. But fortunately, the world government had arranged some CPs in various places, and Zhao Shu's cleanup only targeted the noble areas, not the ordinary civilian areas. Therefore, their intelligence personnel made the greatest effort to report the basic information to the world government. What? A revolution has occurred in the Goa Kingdom. Hellmark's ship was destroyed. Who did it? No one knows. What about the escort, Rear Admiral Draver? Unable to contact, life or death unknown. Sengoku widened his eyes as he listened to this news. The government's directly affiliated intelligence department, the CPs, provide reliable intelligence. But when will those revolutionaries dare to cause a stir in East Blue? Are they not afraid of death? He still hasn't received news about Uchiha Madara being there. There's nothing he can do. Banban is not the type to govern, and he doesn't need to go out and face the masses. That kind of work is left to the revolutionaries. Naturally, Sengoku also blames the revolutionaries for this. Just like the revolutionaries thought, Sengoku doesn't take the revolutionaries in East Blue seriously. The current revolutionaries are still weak. Although there are many top-level experts, they severely lack mid- and low-level personnel. It's fine if they cause trouble in the Grand Line, as the weather there is unpredictable, and even the Marines wouldn't launch a major attack to avoid encountering storms and other dangers. But in East Blue, you're asking for death. Sengoku snorted coldly, without hesitation, immediately ordering the East Blue branch to take action. For the world government, the revolutionaries, although their ideology is too dangerous, are just a minor ailment. The revolutionaries are not the problem. The only problem is the appearance of the dragon people. The revolutionaries shouldn't be crazy enough to even dare to touch the celestial dragons. Sengoku thought to himself, but how do I explain this to the 5 elders? Even if they just cause a little inconvenience to the celestial dragons, Those guys can cause a huge uproar. Nah. But recently, the 5 elders have been acting strangely. I didn't expect them to agree to Gilgamesh's subordinates becoming Shichibukai. Have they gone mad? Sengoku squinted his eyes, thinking to himself. Let subordinates become Shichibukai. This is an insult to the Shichibukai system. Even to the Marines, even to the world government, it is an insult. Shichibukai are supposed to listen to the government's summons. So, if the government calls, will Doflamingo listen to Gilgamesh or the government? Although there is the factor of Magellan, this admiral-level strength is crucial. But the 5 elders agreed too quickly. It was almost as if they immediately agreed as soon as I reported it. It seems as if they don't seem to care whether Gilgamesh is one of the 7 warlords of the sea or not. They just want a channel to contact Gilgamesh for. Sengoku squinted his eyes. Marine also has its own intelligence organization. Although not as strong as the government's CPs, it is not weak either. During this time, Sengoku received some information about people voluntarily cooperating with Doflamingo. Now, thinking back, there seems to be something off. Compared to something that can make the 5 elders take action, the revolutionaries are just a small problem. But it didn't take long for Sengoku to receive unexpected news. What? All the dispatched warships were annihilated. Sengoku widened his eyes, listening to the Den Mushi's report. Uchiha Madara, actually collaborating with the revolutionaries? This time, he finally received detailed information. Yeah. Summon everyone. Sengoku's expression suddenly became serious. Call the admirals, and Garp, Suru. This time, it seems like all of us old bones will have to make a move. The revolutionaries are just a minor ailment, but Uchiha Madara is different. Damn it. Did I make a mistake again? Has my damn IQ completely shifted to the world of anime? Marine's efficiency is terrifyingly high. In just under 10 minutes, the 3 admirals and Garp all arrived at the conference room, sitting solemnly in their respective positions. Crane and Zephyr, who are not at naval headquarters, used Den Mushi to communicate and show their faces. This emergency assembly seems to be similar to the incident with Uchiha Madara last time. And this time, it's still Uchiha Madara. Sengoku glanced solemnly at all the high-ranking Marines below, not playing any guessing games, and said directly, just now, news came from East Blue that Uchiha Madara and the Revolutionary Army have captured the Goa Kingdom. I don't know if he died or was captured when he went to visit the Germa Mark Holy Ship. After the problem occurred with the Germa Mark Holy Ship, I didn't know where Uchiha Madara was, so I sent the fleet from the East Blue's 121st branch, led by Vice Admiral Nils. However, we have lost contact and it is suspected that the entire army has been wiped out. Listening to Sengoku's words, everyone's faces were filled with seriousness. Sure enough, it's still Uchiha Madara. And this Uchiha Madara actually has a connection with the Revolutionary Army. Everyone couldn't help but look at Garp, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, but his. Sengoku, is the news of Uchiha Madara's appearance confirmed? Garp's voice was low. I don't think Dragon would do something like this. Don't forget that the Goa Kingdom is in the East Blue. The East Blue is the most peaceful sea area. The highest bounty for pirates is only around 30-50 million. Which can be easily handled by any rear admiral. In the East Blue, Marines' warships can travel freely without any obstacles, without any consumption. This doesn't seem like something the cunning dragon would do. I don't know why he did this, but the fact remains. Sengoku spoke. According to the information sent by the government's CPs, the Revolutionary Army has started to consolidate resources and seems to be planning to stay in the Goa Kingdom for a long time. HMPH. They're delusional. Akainu was the first to roar. What can Uchiha Madara do? This is the East Blue. If the Grand Line may hinder Marine from openly hunting down the Revolutionary Army due to unpredictable weather, climate, and the prevalence of pirates, but in the East Blue, they can fully gather their strongest forces. Akainu clenched his fist, which turned red and emitted a scorching heat. His eyes were sharp as he directly volunteered, "Let me go, Fleet Admiral Sengoku. This time, I won't lose. I'll go too." Garp sighed lightly. Maybe I can see my son. Everyone subconsciously looked to the side. Garp is truly a strong individual. Although he is only a vice admiral, in terms of combat power, He is stronger than the strongest of the 3 admirals, Akainu. It can be said that the battle power is guaranteed. AB. I'll go too. Leave only Kizaru and Zephyr to guard naval headquarters, everyone else will go. Sengoku said coldly, we failed last time, this time, we can't afford to lose. After the meeting, immediately form a fleet and head straight to the East Blue. Crane spoke up, do we need to block the news? With such a large operation, it can't be blocked. We can only try to delay the enemy's acquisition of information. Sengoku shook his head, but we can ask the world government if they want to send people. This time, it involves Uchiha Madara, who killed celestial dragons, and news about the Germa Mark holy ship. I believe they will also contribute. 5 elders, they will definitely contribute. Given the current situation, they cannot help but contribute. Sengoku sighed. I have resolved the situation with Gilgamesh after Impel Down was destroyed, and now the Revolutionary Army is teaming up with Uchiha Madara. Damn it, can't I have a moment of peace in this sea? However, no matter how restless their hearts were, they still had to take action. Justice does not tolerate enemies. Bring Saitama along as well, Zephyr spoke up. If we had him last time, we might have been able to capture Uchiha Madara. Zephyr is the biggest supporter of Saitama, always praising his strength. And Saitama has never disappointed Zephyr. No matter what kind of pirate they encounter, the outcome is always the same, death. Yes, he should have the strength of an admiral now. Sengoku nodded. The Marines acted extremely quickly. While Sengoku was holding a meeting, logistics personnel had already begun preparing the warships for departure. Once they had decided on the situation, squads of soldiers were already boarding the ships at the dock. 10 warships set sail from Crescent Moon Harbor, cannons were pushed out of the gunports, and ammunition was plentiful. On the deck, Marine soldiers stood in a dense formation, their faces serious, ready for battle at any moment. Set sail. Sengoku waved his hand, giving the order directly. They set off in a hurry, to the point where even the powerful individuals hadn't been fully arranged yet. But it didn't matter, they could arrange things while on the move. For example, giving orders to the vice admirals. Passing through the gates of justice, crossing the calm belt, and blockading the waters around Goa Kingdom, the world governments prepared reinforcements. So the purpose of this operation is to reach Goa Kingdom as quickly as possible. Uchiha Madara. No matter what, I will kill you first. Sengoku squinted his eyes, a hint of fierceness flashing in them. Otherwise, the name of justice will weep. Sengoku's arrangements were direct and hasty, but very thorough. On one hand, he gathered forces from all directions, and on the other hand, he found ways to settle the surrounding areas. There were plenty of troublesome matters, but these things can always be overcome. In fact, if it weren't for concerns about confidentiality, he would have wanted to gather the 7 warlords of the sea as well. But it doesn't matter, this time, even the fleet admiral himself will join the battle, and Goa Kingdom will definitely not have a situation like the Battle of Justice in the Gates, forcing them to rescue those ships. Uchiha Madara will definitely not escape. However, it was unexpected that there would be problems directly with the seemingly easiest arrangement of top-tier combat power. What did you say? Sengoku widened his eyes, speaking into the Den Mushi receiver. Saitama is not participating in this battle? No, yes. On the other end of the phone, Zephyr's voice carried a hint of melancholy. What does he want to do? Sengoku squinted his eyes, with a constant flicker of light in his eyes. What does this have to do with the Revolutionary Army? Or is it a deliberate act of defiance? XX. As the resourceful general, Sengoku subconsciously thought of many possibilities. And Zephyr, familiar with his personality, directly answered, he is just a hero driven by interest. A hero? Yes, he believes that this kind of battle is not something a hero should do. Zephyr's voice was low, in fact, Saitama did not put it so tactfully. What he meant was that the Revolutionary Army and the world government are like 2 countries. What does it matter if 2 countries fight each other in terms of justice? Therefore, he does not participate. To be honest, how different is this from disobedience? Sengoku instantly frowned. Zephyr, he is a Marine. Marine is the military force of the world government. Sengoku, he is a hero driven by interest. Zephyr sighed, Marine and all that, I forced him to do it. Heroes are more important than Marines. Upon hearing this, Sengoku pursed his lips and couldn't help but think of the time when he asked Saitama to invite Gilgamesh to become one of the 7 warlords of the sea. At that time, Saitama asked a lot about Gilgamesh's past, then muttered a bunch of strange words about laws and whether they were humans or monsters, and finally talked about the punishments received by those prisoners and whether it was a crime to commit suicide. At that time, he was just casually listening, but now he thinks that Saitama was probably comparing the punishments to judge whether or not to kill that person. In the end, he felt that although those people were scum, they didn't need to be killed before committing new crimes. They were considered released by the authorities, so he accepted that mission. But this time, Zephyr spoke up. He also asked about the fire incident, whether it was true or not. I didn't dare to answer him, just said that it's still under investigation. Upon hearing this, Sengoku's lips moved, and he fell into silence. Although the Revolutionary Army is relatively weak in power, it doesn't mean they have no ability at all. Leaking information to some news agencies secretly would naturally lead to the publication of some things by the media, as part of the fishing boat battle with the world government. It seems that Saitama seems to know about this. Sengoku let out a deep sigh. Saitama's sense of justice is too strong, even stronger than Luffy's. Akainu, at least, would make certain compromises, such as deceiving the pirates during Whitebeard's execution. But Saitama wouldn't. When he sees a criminal committing a crime, he just goes over. So far, the reports Sengoku has received are all about Saitama seeing XX committing a crime, and Saitama killing XX. Among these XX, there are pirates, as well as some nobles and officials. Fortunately, Zephyr has a strong background and can suppress some people's revenge. Otherwise. Sengoku. Zephyr's voice was low. Saitama's ship still hasn't assembled its officers, maybe it's a good thing. Once the vice admirals are assembled, we need to return to naval headquarters, if we encounter celestial dragons. Upon hearing this, Sengoku fell into silence. Those celestial dragons, they really go beyond what the nobles of the Goa Kingdom do. Saitama killing some officials who oppress the common people in small countries is one thing, but if he were to face celestial dragons. I understand. We won't mobilize him this time, Sengoku sighed. Let's also hold off on calling him back to naval headquarters for now. Or rather, when we do call him back, I'll find a way to ensure the people around him. Zephyr's voice was low. Sengoku put down the Den Mushi and looked at the dim sky. Whether it's him or the law, they both dislike those damn celestial dragons. The Goa Kingdom has been relatively peaceful lately. The Revolutionary Army's governance is quite scientific, without the oppression of the nobles. As long as they stay here, their income will be much more abundant. However, the Revolutionary Army did not hide the fact that the world government will attack from the people of the Goa Kingdom. So a large group of people chose to leave the Goa Kingdom and seek refuge in other countries. The Revolutionary Army did not stop them, and even subtly supported them. They don't know if the Marines will ruthlessly slaughter civilians or even play the Buster Call. Although Uchiha Madara claimed that he would never let a single cannonball hit the city, Robin ultimately implemented this system. She still holds hostility towards the world government and doesn't believe they would refrain from using the convenient Buster Call for the sake of the people. At the same time, she doesn't dare to place all her hopes on Uchiha Madara alone. These fleeing people will eventually undergo inspections by marine ships at sea, but they won't be killed. At most, they will be harassed a bit and then hide in safe countries. With these people gone, the remaining ones have become much calmer. The Revolutionary Army has also taken the opportunity to implement various reforms, distributing the nobles' land to the common people, modifying tax rates, increasing residents' income, promoting agriculture, and stockpiling food. On one hand, it's for the sake of reform, and on the other hand, it's for the sake of preparing for war. The current calm is just the calm before the storm. The real danger lies ahead. Zhao Shu hasn't been idle during this time. He couldn't help but laugh and cry when he received news from Saitama. They actually want to call Saitama too. Can't you guys just do this stupid thing once? You want to do it a second time? But this time, it won't work. This time, it's Uchiha's solo performance, and no one else can interfere. Zhao Shu doesn't know Sengoku's concerns, and even if he did, there would be nothing he could do about it. Every character has their core character design, and once that is changed, it's unlikely that Zhao Shu will be able to improve the realism of the template in his lifetime. Saitama's character design is that of a hero, so he absolutely cannot tolerate characters like monsters committing crimes, whether they are celestial dragons or anything else. This is Saitama's weakness. If he really encounters celestial dragons, Zhao Shu can only ignore it and let this Marines supernova take care of the celestial dragons, causing trouble for the Marines. Other characters also have this weakness. For example, on Gilgamesh's side, Zhao Shu wouldn't dare let him hear news about the 4 emperors who rule over the latter half of the Grand Line. Once he hears it, with this proud king's character design, he will immediately go and kill them, even if it means giving up everything he has achieved so far and affecting Zhao Shu's plans. These are all unavoidable things. Although Zhao Shu will try to avoid them, if they really happen, he won't hesitate. However, this weakness in character design may not necessarily be unable to be turned into an advantage. Events that perfectly align with the character design can greatly increase the realism of the template. Zhao Shu was still in the underground palace of the Goa Kingdom, constantly creating clones. The Goa Kingdom is not small in size, and it can be said that there are potential points of enemy attack everywhere. Therefore, Robin did not trust Zhao Shu's words of not letting a single enemy come over. But Zhao Shu really intended to do so. He continued to create clones, with each clone guarding a small section of the coastline. It would be difficult for any enemy to cross the defense line before killing his clones. Transforming into the appearance of Uchiha Madara, with Rinnegan in his eyes, as soon as his chakra recovered, he immediately created more clones. After creating the clones, he would gather his chakra again. The created clones did not rush to leave, but stood aside to reduce energy consumption. Now, he has created nearly 1,000 clones, each with 50% of his full strength. They are stronger than the clones he faced Admiral with. Suddenly, Zhao Shu's body suddenly stiffened, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He immediately called up the system panel. Congratulations, host, for unlocking the 4th character template. What is this? The 4th template is out. But what's the use of this? Zhao Shu said helplessly. Template 4. Ito Makoto. Makoto is a well-known big shot, and his fame may be even greater than Uchiha Madara and Kinshinshin. The leader of the 4 great scumbags, also known as the human self-propelled cannon. Cannon King Ito Makoto. Of course, the ending of being chopped by a firewood knife is also very famous. But no matter what, the title of Cannon King is well deserved. There is a saying, you laughed at Makoto's early death, and Makoto laughed at your lack of progress. Ito Makoto has the appearance of an ordinary high school student, average height, slightly thin build, usually wearing school uniforms or casual clothes. Makoto is physically weak, often lacking energy and feeling tired. However, when it comes to slapping, he is always exceptionally energetic and never feels tired. The title of Cannon King is not an empty boast. What's the use of this template? Zhao Shu said helplessly. Makoto is just an ordinary high school student. Except for having many girls around him, he is hardly famous for anything else. He is bad at sports and average in academics, if there is anything special about him. Does his affinity with girls count? With his unremarkable appearance, he has dated 10 decent girls. It seems that he has a certain attraction to girls. It's troublesome. Where can I go to play this character? Zhao Shu shook his head. Being chopped by a firewood knife is not too bad. He can just play some illusions or something. If worse comes to worst, even if he is really cut, it doesn't matter. With Zhao Shu's abilities, he is not afraid of such injuries at all. There are no schools in the world of pirates. Zhao Shu snorted and pursed his lips. Yes, there are no schools in the world of pirates. Luffy, Ace, and others were raised by bandits when they were young. They spent their days fighting beasts and stealing treasures. Sabo was a little better, having a private tutor, but there was still no school. Other people are pretty much the same. Nami has been a thief since she was little, Zoro lives in a dojo, Sanji works in the kitchen. Although I don't know why, people in the world of pirates can still watch the news for the most part. But schools, indeed, don't exist. The Marines do have a school similar to a recruit training camp, but can that be considered a school? We can't just throw Ito Makoto into the Marine training camp, right? Zhao Shu shook his head. Using the Marines' physical fitness test scores as Ito Makoto's exam scores? And treating the Marines alumni as Ito Makoto's classmates? Let's just leave him alone. Zhao Shu shook his head. Anyway, from what I can see now, the character templates are randomly sent out, so it's not a big problem if one template isn't played. There's nothing particularly advantageous about playing it anyway. Of course, he still used the transformation technique to change Ito Makoto a bit. So, the face of Makoto Ito appeared in the basement, and the realism increased significantly. Makoto Ito, 24%. Suddenly, Zhao Shu, looking at the system template, was stunned. Huh. Uchiha Madara's template. The Marines have finally arrived. Their actions have also been known by the Revolutionary Army. Dragon was originally a backbone of the Marines, and many people sympathized with him, secretly befriending him to obtain certain information, which was not difficult at all. Similarly, the Marines' forces are too many to be the kind that can be completely concealed. Is it okay? Robin looked worriedly at Uchiha Madara. She wasn't too worried about herself. She had plenty of experience in escaping, and the Revolutionary Army wouldn't put all their hopes on Uchiha Madara. She had prepared some hidden hiding places. It's not realistic to say that everything is hidden, but Robin was confident that she was the least likely to be caught. But the Revolutionary Army in the city might survive, but this man. Even if you give it your all, how long can you hold on? Robin sighed lightly, looking at the coastline. With her vision, she could already faintly see the approaching warships. The Marines have arrived. There are 20 warships, and each warship should have at least one vice admiral. If the Revolutionary Army's intelligence is correct, then in this fleet, there are Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Hero Garp, Admiral Akainu. In addition, there are reinforcements from the world government. But Dragon's intelligence in this regard is insufficient, so there isn't much information. Give it your all? Uchiha Madara calmly spoke, gazing at the Marine fleet. Woman, do you know how strong my full power is? Robin was stunned. Wasn't the last time she fought the Marine Admiral with your full power? But before she could be stunned for too long, the next second, her eyes widened. A pitch-black staff appeared out of nowhere and fell into the hands of this man, making a bell-like sound. His clothes transformed into a snow-white six-paths robe, accentuating his handsome and resolute face. His eyes turned into six-paths ripple pupils, like mosquito coils that could swallow people. 6 pitch-black truth-seeking balls flew behind him. And then, he actually flew up. What is this? Robin widened her eyes. 20 warships, 30,000 elite soldiers. 31 vice admirals, 1 admiral, 1 fleet admiral. At the same time, there are also reinforcements from the world government. This is a battle we are destined to win. A boisterous man laughed heartily and disdainfully glanced at Sengoku. Sengoku, you're so timid and slow, aren't you afraid that Uchiha Madara will escape? Fleet Admiral Sengoku glanced at the burly man without saying a word. They are the reinforcements from the world government this time. Under the world government, Kuang is in charge of commanding the 3 armies, with the Marines being just one of them. But this time, the world government directly mobilized the army to participate in the war. Although the Marines are dominant in the world of pirates, with the other 2 armies having little activity, it doesn't mean they don't exist. In the era of the Great Voyage, the Marines played an important role in connecting various islands and countries, while the army was more like a protective force, with most of the work being handled by the Marines. But their strength is also formidable. For example, the burly man next to them is a field marshal of the army, whose strength is comparable to that of Admiral Akainu, although hardly anyone on the sea has heard of his name. The Marines have too many places to guard, and for a while, they couldn't spare too many of their top fighters. So under the leadership of the world government, the other branches of the military were gradually mobilized. That's enough. Our target is Uchiha Madara. A masked man next to them spoke up. Anyone who can defeat Night Owl and Akainu should be cautious. This person is the head of the CPO. In this great war, the Marines mobilized Garp, Sengoku, Suru, and Akainu, and the army sent out a field marshal. The CPO also dispatched 2 elites who are on par with admirals. Their strength is terrifying. The field marshal of the army chuckled and said no more. The advantage held by the Marines is too great, with marine branches all over the world, the massive investment of the world government, and the various facilities of the shipyards. Almost the entire world revolves around the Marines. As for the remaining 2 armies, they are just security forces, deliberately kept by the world government to balance the massive size of the Marines. Of course, these are all minor matters. Sengoku calmly looked into the distance, and the coastline of Goa Kingdom was faintly visible. Be careful, that man is not an ordinary opponent, Sengoku said. You're really timid, the field marshal of the army chuckled, but didn't say much. The last time they tried to suppress the Marines, they went all out, with almost the entire army mobilized except for Sengoku and Garp. But the result was nothing. That person named Uchiha Madara is definitely not a weakling. On the contrary, he is an extremely powerful individual rarely seen in the world. Uchiha Madara? Suddenly, Sengoku exclaimed. Everyone followed Sengoku's gaze and saw Uchiha Madara's figure appearing on the coastline. The person next to him, is he the son of a devil? Quite interesting, the CPO revealed a smile. He's just standing there on the shore. The field marshal of the army squinted. Be careful. Uchiha Madara has the ability to create clones and transform. His real body might not be here, Sengoku said, but he definitely won't escape too far. The ability to clone and transform makes it difficult to capture Uchiha Madara. Subconsciously, everyone's gaze turned towards the direction of the Goa Kingdom. Since the revolutionary army has occupied this place, how could they only care about escaping and not the people there? By using the Goa Kingdom as a threat, Uchiha Madara can be firmly locked here. It's ridiculous, Garp sneered softly. We, the Marines who bear the name of justice, actually have to rely on the people as hostages to fight against the enemy. The others remained silent. Sengoku and the others had no response. The people of the world government simply didn't care. As long as Uchiha Madara can be killed, what does it matter if the people of the Goa Kingdom are sacrificed? They are just commoners. Uchiha Madara moved. Subconsciously, everyone looked over, and indeed, Uchiha Madara moved. He was actually flying in the sky, flying towards their side. And what is that outfit? Sengoku squinted his eyes. Zhao Shu, now it can be said, finally possesses the full power of Uchiha Madara. Host. Zhao Shu. Character templates possessed. 1. Uchiha Madara, 80%. 2. Saitama, 68%. 3. Gilgamesh, 53%. 4. Ito Makoto, 24%. Before the Goa Kingdom incident, Uchiha Madara was only 74% realistic. But Zhao Shu, who didn't deliberately act, suddenly discovered that he had 80% realism when he obtained the 4th template, possessing the history of Uchiha Madara's prime. The higher the realism, the harder it is to advance in the later stages. But with a span of 6 points, without any devil fruit assistance, Zhao Shu managed to complete it in just a few days. Is it because I am now the same as Uchiha Madara? Zhao Shu squinted his eyes, his feathered robe making a sound as it cut through the air. Uchiha Madara only trusted Senju Hashirama, and didn't trust anyone else. So the decision he ultimately made was to use a large-scale illusion to envelop the entire world. Eliminate the chakra between people, eliminate the hatred between people, and make everyone happy. Although it's just a hollow, this method doesn't require relying on anyone. With one's own strength, bearing all the pressure, saving the world. Just like Zhao Shu now, Marines? World government? Whatever pressure there is, I will bear it. Now, Uchiha Madara is truly in his prime. Swish. In the next second, Uchiha Madara's figure appeared above the warship. His eyes were shining purple, his long white hair flowing behind him, holding the 6 paths staff, and wearing the burning 6 paths feather robe. You're too slow, world government, so I came to find you. Uchiha Madara. The crowd was shocked. What kind of ability was this? He can actually float. HMPH. So what if he can float? Moonwalk is one of the 6 paths, and many people here can do it. Sengoku snorted coldly. In the next second, countless vice admirals started using moonwalk to float. This time was different from the last. They didn't need to surround him. As long as they defeat the enemy, it would be victory. At least, it would be a nominal victory. Of course, their true target was kill him. Sengoku ordered coldly. Uchiha Madara, this person is the true target of the world government. No one cared about the fact that there might still be other fleet admirals or someone on par with Sengoku's status. Everyone rose into the air. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of moonwalk stepping echoed. How foolish. Uchiha Madara remained calm, placing the six-paths staff aside, his hands flat. Sage art. Yin release lightning style, in the next second. Thunder spread like branches. Deep purple color reflected on the surrounding sea, turning it completely purple. The sunlight seemed to disappear. Countless vice admirals who rushed over were immediately hit. The high-intensity electric current quickly corroded their bodies. Ah! For a moment, the sky was filled with screams. Swish! The thunder subsided slightly, and the vice admirals who were full of killing intent just now fell from the sky like dumplings. At least 20 vice admirals were taken out by this wave. He has become stronger again. Sengoku squinted his eyes. The previous Uchiha Madara was strong, but he shouldn't have this kind of momentum now. Bang! Uchiha Madara formed hand seals and took a deep breath. Sage art. Storm release light fang. Whoosh! A laser-like beam shot out from Uchiha Madara's mouth, like a sharp blade. Dodge! Sengoku's expression changed, and he jumped up. In the next second, the purple laser cut through the warship as easily as cutting butter. Boom! The cut warship instantly began to sink, and panicked Marines jumped off the ship. But before they could escape completely, the cut warship seemed to touch something and exploded with a loud bang. Sengoku's expression turned serious, and he had already jumped onto another warship. As for the soldiers and vice admirals who fell into the water, he wasn't worried at all. He didn't even glance in their direction. Their responsibility now was to fight. As for those people, the surrounding soldiers would rescue them. Another ability. What exactly is this man's ability? Uchiha Madara can summon giant-like figures that can split the red line. His incredible transformation allows him to easily infiltrate Mariajoy. With numerous clones, even vice admirals might not be able to defeat one of them. And some exceptionally powerful clones can even use the abilities of giants to attack admirals. And now there are even more of them. What devil fruit did he eat? Sengoku gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. In the world of pirates, people have peculiar abilities, either through modification or devil fruit. But devil fruit only grants one ability, so why did Uchiha Madara? Uchiha Madara. A furious roar. The scorching lava transformed into a dog's head and fiercely bit down. Dog bite red lotus. Admiral Akainu made his move. Filled with anger, the lava in his hand was almost twice as large as before. The incident of being defeated by Uchiha Madara in the past drove him to train with a crazy attitude, greatly increasing his strength. Boom! The lava fist struck. The intense lava even splashed out. Did it hit? Akainu squinted his eyes, but instead, he was stunned. Everyone was also stunned. Although this attack could be considered a fatal blow to most people, Uchiha Madara shouldn't be so easily hit. The next second, calm words came from the splashing lava. Yes, you hit me. Do you want me to congratulate you? Akainu's pupils contracted. He saw that the lava, which was almost comparable to the core of a volcano, disappeared from Uchiha Madara's body at a visible speed. The lava was absorbed. Uchiha Madara remained calm. The Rinnegan already had the ability to counter all ninjutsu attacks. Akainu's lava was hardly different from the lava style in the Hokage world. How is this possible? Akainu's face showed a shocked expression. My lava. No. This is absolutely impossible. The next second, he suddenly swung his fists. Bang. 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 His fists generated a large number of huge lava fists and launched them into the air in the form of lava, resembling a meteor shower. They bombarded non-Uchiha Madara. Meteor volcano. Boom. 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 But it was useless. Uchiha Madara still stood there calmly, not even needing to dodge. All the lava twisted and was absorbed by him the moment it approached him. On the contrary, some of the lava that missed caused waves when it fell, almost overturning several warships. How is this possible? Akainu widened his eyes. The previous Uchiha Madara didn't have so many techniques. For a moment, he was somewhat absent-minded. HMPH, weak marines. The fleet admiral sneered and flew into the air using moonwalk. Has the world government spent a lot of money on dogs? If he were to take action now, he would definitely save face in the current situation where the marines have lost their dignity. The budget for the next year will definitely increase significantly. AR. Huh? When he approached, he suddenly noticed a black sphere appearing in front of him. Isn't this the black sphere behind Uchiha Madara? How could it? Swish. The next second, the black truth-seeking ball rushed out and hit the head of the fleet admiral. Then, the headless body fell with a loud crash. Including Sengoku, everyone's faces turned pale. This was the first high-ranking casualty. The entertainment is over. Uchiha Madara said calmly. Be careful of that black sphere, there's something wrong with it, Sengoku shouted immediately. Of course, there was no need for him to shout. Everyone present was a seasoned warrior, and they could all see the problem with that black sphere. Although the army marshal was inferior to the marine marshal by a considerable margin, he still possessed admiral-level combat power. His haki was unquestionably formidable. Even an ordinary officer wielding a sword couldn't cut through his skin. Firing 100 shots with a musket wouldn't leave a mark. Even withstanding a cannon blast was not impossible. Yet, a person like him had their head easily obliterated? Not just killed, but completely annihilated. What on earth is this thing? Uchiha Madara. How should they fight against this person? Boom. 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 At that moment, the surrounding warships opened fire. Although the soldiers brought by the Marines found it difficult to participate in a battle of this level, it didn't mean they were completely useless. They were the elites among the elites, and while it may not be accurate to say that every shot hit its mark, it wasn't far off. 5 nearby warships, with hundreds of cannons, fired in unison, targeting Uchiha Madara. It wasn't that there were no warships further away, but the distance was too great, making it easy to hit their own people. After all, the target of their attack was a person, not a large warship. The incredibly accurate artillery fire almost instantly struck a point. However, the next second, everyone's eyes widened. The black sphere behind Uchiha Madara seemed to spread like liquid, enveloping his entire body. The intense artillery fire bombarded the black sphere, as if it had entered another dimension, disappearing in an instant. The truth-seeking ball. After mastering the 6 paths technique, the practitioner can control 9 black spheres formed by yin-yang release that float behind them. They possess tremendous power and can easily destroy a forest. These black spheres contain the power of all things, and anyone or anything without the power of the 6 paths that comes into contact with them will disappear into nothingness. Naturally, this includes artillery shells. Can it dissolve everything? Sengoku squinted his eyes. Logia attacks are also useless, in that case. Then let's use people. Buzz. The sound of a long ringing bell, and an immensely huge golden Buddha appeared at the bow of the marine ship. His head was completely swollen, his belly round and massive, and he wore a golden cloak behind him. Zoana human fruita mythical beast type a Buddha form. Sengoku's eyes flickered with wisdom. He saw it very clearly. Uchiha Madara absorbed Akainu's lava attacks directly. But when faced with physical artillery fire, he used the black sphere behind him to defend. In other words, he can absorb elemental attacks, but he can't absorb physical ones. He can only be defeated. This is the world of pirates, not Hokage. What everyone relies on the most is their fists and swords, not elemental ninjutsu. The truth-seeking ball transformed back into a spherical shape, and Uchiha Madara saw a huge golden Buddha leaping towards him. Bang! His kick was extremely powerful, almost capsizing the ship beneath his feet. With this force, combined with Sengoku's continuous stomping and the use of moonwalk to accelerate, he quickly approached and was about to throw a punch. Oh? Uchiha Madara sneered, blocking with his staff. Sengoku saw this and twitched at the corner of his mouth, forcibly retracting his fist. That black ball had the power to dissolve everything, and it seemed that this black rod, which could float in the air like the black ball, had a similar power. This punch might hit Uchiha Madara, but his own fist would also be useless. It's simply not worth it. If he punched Uchiha Madara, he definitely wouldn't die, but without his arm, his combat power would rapidly decline. Let me handle this. Akainu suddenly leapt up, with molten lava surging on his body, rushing into the sky. Your ability. Sengoku frowned. I can also fight in close combat. Akainu interrupted directly. Even without his devil fruit ability, Akainu was still one of the strongest fighters. In the next second, Akainu approached, black hockey added to his fist, and he smashed it fiercely. Oh, but without your greatest ability, what else can you do? Uchiha Madara smiled and easily dodged the punch. Compared to the Marines who used moonwalk to move in the air, he clearly had the advantage in mobility. Akainu's face sank as he watched the black ball approaching, and he could only quickly escape. He could moonwalk, but moonwalk couldn't prevent him from being thrown into the sea. As an ability user, even if he could moonwalk, he couldn't avoid his own weaknesses. Uchiha Madara looked at Akainu, who had to retreat, and revealed a smile. Akainu had the weaknesses of an ability user, and Sengoku's large Buddha form was not convenient for this kind of battle. Who else was there? There's me. An old voice sounded, and an old man wearing a marine justice cloak suddenly appeared and threw a punch. Uchiha Madara blocked with his hand and took a few steps back. Hero. Garp. Kizaru's face became serious. As one of the top experts in the Marines, he could also moonwalk. With a suitable physique and no weaknesses as an ability user, he seemed to be the protagonist of this battle. Uchiha Madara. Why are you involved with the Revolutionary Army? What about Dragon? Garp spoke in a deep voice. Dragon. He didn't approve of my actions and left with the main force, Uchiha Madara calmly said, so you don't need to worry about meeting your son here. The people around didn't show much expression. Dragon's identity was not a secret among the higher-ups of the Marines. Is that so? Then I have to thank you, old man. Garp breathed a sigh of relief and closed his eyes. In the next second, he suddenly opened his eyes. So, Uchiha Madara, I ask you, who exactly are you? Subconsciously, all the Marines' eyes focused on this man. Uchiha Madara, with a mysterious identity, except for his younger brother Zhao Shu, who is not surnamed Uchiha. There is almost no information about him. Unknown origin, but extremely powerful. Who exactly is this man? And Uchiha Madara, in response to the question, simply said, I should be the savior of this world.